I think for all those maybe who don't realize how young you were when you kind of got into this industry, can you just kind of tell that story a little bit, like how you even got into music in the first place?
Oh my God. I don't even remember getting into music because I feel like I was born and then was just already in music. Um, I started like doing TV shows and stuff. No, like my mom and I would take the train from Boston to New York City. And I mean, like I did my first TV show at like 6 years old, and then like talent things. And anyway, long story short, I've been doing this a long time. Signed my first record deal at 12 years old, recorded my first album at 12, put out the first single at 13, which is crazy, but
Yeah.
made me the youngest artist ever to have a #1 single with my first song, Leave Get Out. And so the first song came out, then the album came out, got the opportunity to tour the world. Second album came out. The first single on that was Too Little Too Late. Then I had another huge hit from that second album. And then, you know, did a few movies, and then got into like this really long, confusing, frustrating legal situation with my record label that I had to end up fighting to get out of. I didn't own my voice and I wasn't able to put out any music. So spent a few years just fighting just to be able to continue on with my career.
That is honestly, I got chills listening to you talk about, you know, being 13 and being the youngest person ever to have like the #1 hit single like that. And just to see, I mean, you're still so young now, and it feels like you have lived like 10 different lives during this time. But you talked about how, you know, this long legal battle, and I feel like it's confusing for people to try to understand because they don't really understand what goes into contracts. I mean, we see it with Taylor Swift and Scooter Braun, like everything that she's fighting now. Can you give us a little more insight as to like what exactly you were trying to fight against?
Well, every situation is different. So Taylor's situation is unique to her and not really. Well, I'll speak to what I was going through. I signed to a small label that was distributed through a major label. I was signed to a production company through this small label that was distributed through the major label, and everything was great. And I was looking forward to like going through my whole career with them. To be honest with you, these were like my father figures, and like we were a family. But unfortunately, things happened to where they weren't able to fulfill promises that they made, or not even just promises, but contractual things. Like they lost their distribution. They made business decisions that affected me negatively. They essentially became not a functioning record label, but wouldn't let me go. So I couldn't, and contractually they owned my voice. So therefore I couldn't sing on a soundtrack. I couldn't release any music or make any decisions with my voice in a recorded way without their approval. And if they wouldn't give their approval, then I can't do anything. So I had to, I had very limited options. You know, I was being told like, maybe you should just go to college and like pursue something else, because if you're not dealing with, sometimes you're dealing with people who are reasonable and sometimes you're not. So
Yeah.
that's it. And unfortunately I had to take it to a legal place and then just fight to simply be able to continue on my career. So I know that's still confusing. It is a confusing situation. It wasn't like I could just, you know, people think about like Prince and how he changed his name to an unpronounceable symbol and then was able to release music. That wasn't an option in my contract. They owned my voice, which means that I couldn't just change my name. So it just wasn't as simple. People think, well, oh, why can't you just change your name? Or, oh, why don't you just do this? You don't think I thought about all that? I tried to do everything possible. And yeah, so I hope that situations like mine and with, you know, all the eyeballs on Taylor Swift, and even with what Kesha went through and Meg Thee Stallion, with us talking more about contracts and ownership and things like that, and just having the freedom to continue and make moves in your career. It wasn't even that I was like, I need to be 100% in control. It's like, I just want to work. Let me go and continue on. But I think that these conversations are good, and then people can go and do more research and learn more and empower themselves, because knowledge is a very, very empowering thing.
I think it's fascinating. Like you said, it is very powerful to hear it coming from you, because these are just things that I feel like aren't discussed as much with artists and these record labels, and sometimes the control that people have, and you don't realize. You just think that these artists can do whatever, and
it's so
sometimes that's not the case.
And also, I think that there's this misconception, especially like in 2020, where I see people in comments being like, all artists should just own their masters outright, blah blah blah. Okay, yes, in theory, we absolutely should. But when you have no leverage to give a record label that's going to put up millions of dollars for you, what are you going to offer other than your intellectual property? Like, what could you, it's just, I come from a very humble background. What was I going to offer? I don't have daddy's money to throw around and be like, you know what? I'm going to make sure that I'm protected in this way. I don't know lawyers. Like when I was 12 years old, you know what I mean?
Right.
So it's just, it's people always have these ideas of what you could have, would have, should have done. Nobody knows what they would have done when you come from nothing and you don't have any, you just don't know, you know?
Exactly. And when you're not in the industry, you don't know how the contracts are worded whatsoever. Like nobody has any idea. So, I mean, props to you for talking about it. And we are so excited that you are coming out with this new album and you've pushed through it. I mean,
thank you.
I saw the other day, somebody tweeted about Aquamarine, and you brought up the fact, you were like, well, I literally just couldn't because they owned my voice, which it all makes sense now. But bringing up Aquamarine, we have to talk about it because I know it might annoy you. I don't know, but it is truly one of my favorite movies of all time.
Oh
I've seen it over 100 times.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I honestly swear.
JoJo, we could probably quote that entire movie like Rhea and I start to finish, like without anything.
Deadass, I have never seen it since I went to the premiere.
Wow.
I know
I'm not going to tell you that you should 100% watch it because I don't know your feelings on it, but like I watched it recently and I'm not lying.